On today's Keys for Kids Connect podcast, we have an opportunity to reach 200,000 kids, teens, and families in war-torn Ukraine.
People are exhausted of this war. They're exhausted emotionally. They are extremely tired physically. They're exhausted spiritually. They want this war to be ended.
Kids and teens in public schools have asked for more than 30,000 devotionals from Keys for Kids Ministries. Funding is needed to do more. All this on the Keys for Kids Connect podcast. I'm Greg Yoder. Welcome to the Keys for Kids Connect podcast. I'm Greg Yoder, and today we have a very special episode. We'll hear from Sergey Rakhuba, the president of Mission Eurasia, who's right now in war-torn Ukraine, sharing about the incredible resilience of children, teens, and families there. But first, I want to start with something urgent and close to our hearts. Right now, there is an amazing opportunity to bring hope to children and teens in Ukraine. A generous foundation has offered a $25,000 matching gift to print 200,000 Keys for Kids and Unlocked devotionals in Russian and Ukrainian. Devotionals that are literally life-giving for kids facing trauma of war. Think about that for a second. These are kids who've had to flee their homes, who go to bed wondering if their homes are safe, praying for protection for their families, and holding on to the hope that life and peace will return. Now, a little book in their hands filled with scripture and hope reminds them that Jesus sees them. He loves them, and he's their rock in the storm. Now, in the past, we've had newsletters and podcasts talking about this. We've shared stories of Ukrainian kids and teens who've received the Keys for Kids devotionals as well as the Unlocked devotionals. One volunteer told us that seeing a child's eyes light up as they read a story about God's love, just indescribable, she said. It gives them comfort and courage that like digital resources on your phones and etc., they just can't replace. And here's the thing. Every dollar that you give right now is being doubled. That means your gift will help twice as many kids and teens and families hear the hope of Jesus. You can help not only print these devotionals, these special edition devotionals, they're specifically for the war victims there, and you can give that so kids and teens and families a tangible reminder that God is with them even in the darkest moments. So let me just encourage you to give your best gift today. You just go to keysforkids.org/Ukraine. Just keysforkids.org/Ukraine today to make your gift and be a part of this urgent effort. It's keysforkids.org/Ukraine. We have a long ways to go, and so if you could help us with some big, large gifts, that would be awesome, but every gift will be doubled dollar for dollar, up to $25,000. So, well, now, right now, I want to give you a firsthand look at what's happening in Ukraine. I'm not, but my friend is going to. His name is Sergey Rakhuba. We have been friends, for well over 20 years, 25 years, maybe even more than that. He's the president of Mission Eurasia and right now is in Ukraine. Sergey, thank you for joining us on the Keys for Kids Connect podcast. Sergey, we have been talking about the invasion since it began, and we have been partnering together for a long time. Providing devotions in Ukraine. But I just want to get an update. What's happening on the ground in Ukraine right now? Obviously, we don't see a lot of news about Ukraine here in the United States. What's going on?
Since we crossed the border, actually before, week, meeting with people, lots of refugees, our team in Moldova, and now in Ukraine, there is not I would probably say not a moment, so we would talk, but about something that relates to what's happening on the ground, which is the war is happening. I've heard the sirens, soon the first night we arrived to check into our hotel, as soon as I opened my door and ready to go to bed, and I hear the siren, the air defense sirens, so signals, go off. So that's almost 4 years since the war started in Ukraine, and it's not getting better.
Mm.
What's happening here, Russia relentlessly, they intensified their attacks on the communities and cities. As yesterday during our forum, I'm sitting with a guy next to me who is leading a huge volunteer effort in Kharkiv. Kharkiv is a bordering city with Russia, and he shows me text messages. He says, several missiles just came, to the nearby community where their church is. And he says, destruction, of course, panic. But they did hit, so the kindergarten, during the daytime, so. And everybody gets messages. People travel, but all those networks, are alive, and they inform each other. Zaporozhye was attacked, Dnipropetrovsk, and many other cities. So during the daytime, I was talking to my colleague Denis Garinkov. Greg, you met him. He's serving now as a chaplain. He is actually teaching, training chaplains for that to be with soldiers, at the front line there during the, combat time. And he says, Sergey, I barely can talk because there is no networks, the electricity power is down. But overall, I say this is their reality. But what I can say, that's what I felt talking with them. So the people are exhausted of this war. They're exhausted emotionally. They are extremely tired physically. They're exhausted spiritually. And I'm talking about, we're working with thousands of volunteers, and I can feel they are tired. They want this war to be ended,
Mm.
so they want peace. They want, and that's like a big conversation this morning with local Christian leaders and political leaders. They say, if somebody will keep the promise so that the war will end, and they rely that Americans, our American government, American government will help to end this war. And they say that's the only one country that has the power.
Mm.
We are waiting, so we're relying and we're praying so that Americans, as they were with us all the time, he says, and we know that that's the only country that has enough power and has authority probably in a global community to stop this war. They're extremely grateful for all the aid American people continue providing, extremely grateful for humanitarian aid, for food, for clothing, for resources to that give them shelter. I'm telling you, Ukraine is a grateful nation,
Mm.
and but they say a little more help, and we need permission to use weapons that America gave them at once so that we can actually defend ourselves. And he says, less talk, more action. And we know that we can. They actually said that President Trump, he's the only one who has authority and power and so we pray that he has courage so to stop this war.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of in the realm of all these conversations,
Yeah.
Greg.
Can you tell
So
us what are you actually doing there? Obviously, you're representing Mission Eurasia, and you've been there well over a week now. What are you doing there?
Okay, we in Moldova we gathered all. As I've told you before, we moved our regional or field ministries center from Ukraine to Moldova, and from Chisinau, Moldova, which is Chisinau is the capital of that little country. So we coordinate all our ministry in all other countries of Eurasia, including Ukraine. And we had our annual summit, Mission Eurasia Summit. We brought all our leaders, coordinators, trainers, managers, together for together for several days of planning, analyzing, representing, or presenting new ministries, new stories, encouraging, sharing best practices. and it was a glorious, glorious event. We had over 100 coordinators from all the countries, plus about another 100 leaders in Moldova. Other our partnering organizations, pastors joined us. We had a few practical projects, so we kind of had an opening ceremony for a motorcycle shop, which is called, so where hearts and where engines and hearts are restored. The motorcycle shop was built to help orphan boys, 15, 16, 17 years old, to learn this trade, to learn how to fix, how to restore motorcycles. There is a huge demand, apparently, on that thing. And but at the same time, to disciple them in the process. So we dedicated another Bread of Life bakery, and it was not just a bakery to produce, baked or pastries, bread and so on, but also to give girls, orphan girls, an opportunity to learn a life skill. And so that was exciting to see that. But it was wonderful to see all our coordinators from all 15 countries share time with them, encourage them. They encouraged me more. Greg, it's
Of
just
course.
my heart is overflowing with I'm thrilled. So to see how, despite of all the crises, problems, challenges, ministry is moving forward. And here in Ukraine, yesterday, we got on time to join the Forum of Christian Volunteers. Since the war started, so our one of our main ministries was to train, to equip, to mobilize, to encourage, and provide resources to Christian volunteers so that they continue on behalf of churches and global Christian family, bring assistance, aid, and help people, encourage them, but at the same time, share the gospel with those who are in need in Ukraine. It was a glorious event
Mm.
to see in the midst of war, destruction, all the, I don't know, fatigue, so there to see that the gospel is shining. The church is shining in the midst of the destruction. And it was just wonderful. So that's why I'm here.
Well, Sergey, let me talk about the partnership that we've been underway and undertaken for some time, providing devotions for kids and for teens. I know that you're aware that we've been presented a $25,000 matching gift from a foundation, and we're trying to match that. In fact, we just launched it in the last week or two, trying to match that. But let me just want to ask you how the kids are doing. Because kids, teens, and families are struggling there. How are they doing?
Okay, Greg, it's a big question. It's a multifaceted, if I can say, loaded question. At the forum, I met a family. After I met them in the second week of war at the kind of border crossing point. Two kids, they are grown now, so they're 4 years older, but still talking with their parents. I mean, it was exciting to see them, but I could say, and parents share that this is so hard on children.
Mm.
They say they are looking for some kind of, the concept that somebody will come, and quickly finish this war. They're praying relentlessly so that Ukraine will get freedom back and they will go back to their own home that they miss so much. They're from Kherson. Kherson was occupied in the first few weeks.
Mm.
They managed to flee, but the houses have destroyed now.
Mm.
So, and this is just one example. They're talking about this. They're dreaming about this. When they go to bed, so they're praying, they asking so that bombs will miss their home. So, can
Mm.
you imagine a child, praying so that of course they pray against Russia, against Putin, so they pray so that the Satan, so will be destroyed. But overall, talking this morning with one of the political leaders, Greg, and that's what the guy has pointed, he says 60 to 70% of Ukrainian children, they need special trauma counseling.
Mm.
They need something that will help them to have more confidence, so to help them to fight their fears, and so that they can cope with what's happening there. And those keys, so and unlocked, Greg, I've seen them, shared at the volunteers forum. People are giving such a huge credit to that publication. They
Oh.
say this is in such a practical way. Gospel presented, the gospel of hope in all those short stories. So you can attack your kid to bed, but you read that brief story and you pray with the child, so that kind of using the example or testimony of that little devotion there. So, and they say, they're so grateful, so the print we had together with you, I think had a quadruple impact.
Mm.
People sharing those little books. The printed copy, Greg, cannot be replaced,
Mm.
with any digital. Never. So the kid wants to see it. He wants to. I don't know, clean on it, so have him under his pillow, and so that's the impact, so that those devotions have. And if I can, Greg, if you would allow me to talk to your donors,
Absolutely.
on behalf of the Ukrainian children, first I want to thank you, guys, who support Kids for Kids. I mean, the partnership we enjoy with Kids for Kids so much. I want to thank you on behalf of Ukrainian moms, dads, but most I want to thank you on behalf of Ukrainian children who are traumatized because of this war, who are in fear. They're looking for the ground, of hope. And those devotions, simple stories that point that the hope is in
Mm.
Jesus. You cannot imagine how much they help them to get healing, so in all the emotional distress. So if you can help to print more of those, so whatever Greg could provide, I know I'm not blaming Greg or Kids for Kids, but it was drop in the bucket in the midst of this storming sea of fear, destruction, and trauma, and those Kids for Kids, and those, yeah, devotions. They're so much needed, so we can place in the hands of young moms, kids, teenagers, so that they who can find Jesus, who can hope, hear and learn and find hope in Jesus through those materials.
You and I have chatted that you need a special edition to really address some of the issues that these kids are uniquely facing. Is that still something that's needed, Sergey?
Greg, that's specifically what's needed. Kids, of course, they like to cope, reading something or maybe, but if something is really connected to their reality, so that they wake up in the morning and they want to learn if all their relatives are safe overnight, if they are distant friends, so that stayed near the front line are safe, their homes are not bombed. So they need that connects them to that reality. But in the midst of all of this, they need to have good news. They need to have encouragement. They need to have a message that help them to find healing, and healing is in hope in Jesus, in God's love. So, and those specially designed devotions, that would I cannot even. They will have a huge positive gospel impact on the children of Ukraine.
You mentioned the children, but what about the teenagers? Because they seem to cope their own way. They go quiet, or they go kind of do their own thing, and they're always asked, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine." Are you seeing that still take place with the teenagers in Ukraine, or are they dealing with things a little differently? Move your finger.
Yeah, of course, teenagers are
Can't see your face,
teenagers.
Sergey.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Of course, Greg, teenagers are teenagers everywhere, even in a time of war. But listen, they cannot, as much as they want to play, we're adults, and stuff. But, talking to our leaders, and we've done lots of camps for teens, they say, so when they are trying to hide their fears, their emotions, but that's what makes it even more challenging, more difficult. And they start opening up, so if you touch, those in depth, so the strings of their pain, and then they open up and say, if you see a teenager who opens up and weeps, so they are looking for a real connection. They want somebody to help them to discover, so that the way to have a relationship with God, So many of them, they lost their families are separated. They see it in a more deeper way than kids, so more deeper than just emotion, and they really need help as well. And that's what we've been. No, very few, nobody kind of does lots of counseling and helps teenagers. Lots of they focus on the older generation and family, kids, but teenagers, that's the very special, I would say, segment in the society. And we're so grateful that you plan to produce and help to print those materials that will help to reach out to teenagers and help them to cope with their fears and their trauma.
I know you have a lot to do today, Sergey, even though it's evening there, but give me 3 prayer requests that our listeners, our friends can pray over.
Yeah, everybody we asked, so this, and I'm traveling with a group of 14 people, Greg, and everybody is asking any Ukrainians, what would be the first kind of prayer request? Everybody, not a single change. Pray for peace in our country. Pray God will intervene and will stop this war. So then they asked to pray, for the courage, so for their soldiers who are on the front line. So that's where our fathers, brothers, grandfathers in many cases of the children. Many of them probably won't be able to come back and see their children. They say, pray for courage, pray for safety, for those who defend our country, but also pray for children. Pray for children that so that they, at one day, so one morning they wake up and they learn that the war is over. So the peace is back in their home, family, community, and their country. So that's the prayer request, Greg. There are lists, I can talk, but pray for Ukraine, pray for Ukrainian children, pray for Ukrainian leadership and Ukrainian soldiers who, with such unbelievable courage, without much support. Today, I've talked to soldiers on active duty. He's a national hero. We asked him the same question. He says, pray I have enough bullets, so to defend my 15-month-old son who is home. And that's he says, my prayer request.
Wow. Well, Sergey, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for taking the time and talking on your busy trip in Ukraine. We appreciate you. We love you. And we have been praying for you, and we'll continue to do so. Safe travels, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Greg. And again, I want to encourage you. I want to thank you. I want to encourage your donors. Every single dollar will provide multiple copies of these special devotions, and they will change a countless number or transform, impact countless number of kids' lives. So thank you, brother.
Well, thank you, Sergey. And on behalf of our listeners, we're praying for you, your team, and everyone in Ukraine. Please, safe travels, my friend. We appreciate you. Again, that web address, if you want to help us with this $25,000 match, just go to keysforkids.org/Ukraine. That's keysforkids.org/Ukraine. Well, now we want to switch gears to something that's happening right here at home. Our public school ministry continues to bring God's Word to students across the country. And then this December, you can be a part of something really exciting, especially if you're in West Michigan. The three Heath brothers, it's a singing group, a group of three young men. We love them to death. We've been partnering with them for a while, but they're going to be performing their Not So Silent Night Christmas concert coming up Thursday, December 18th at 7 o'clock at Life Stream Church in Allendale, Michigan. Now, at this specific concert, we're going to be raising funds for our public school outreach. Your support will help put Keys for Kids and Unlock devotionals into the hands of any student who wants one. These are tangible ways to plant seeds of faith in kids' lives, and much like we're doing in Ukraine. So come for the music, stay for the mission, of course, and be a part of giving hope to students both near and far, both here in West Michigan, where we live, or maybe around the country where you live, or even in Canada, where the three Heath brothers have been performing in schools there as well. Well, today we've seen hope in action, from kids in Ukraine finding courage through a simple devotional, to teens discovering God's love in the midst of trauma, to students at home opening their first Keys for Kids devotional. You know, every gift, every prayer, and every act of support matters. Remember, if you want to help Ukrainian kids and teens, go to keysforkids.org/Ukraine. If you'd like to help our public school ministry and the three Heath brothers get a good start on this public school outreach benefit concert, go to keysforkids.org/schools. That's keysforkids.org/schools. And be a part of the three Heath brothers Christmas concert on December the 18th if you live here in West Michigan. Well, on behalf of everyone here at Keys for Kids Ministries and my good friend Sergey Rakhuba, thanks for listening to the Keys for Kids Connect podcast. I'm Greg Yoder, and until next time, keep pointing kids to Jesus, because even the smallest seed of hope can grow into a lifetime of faith. Thanks for listening.